Good morning. This is the Blaine's World podcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You get more information and find out about previous shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Scott Socha, who's the owner of Foot RX in Asheville. He's also, correct me if I have the pronunciation right, a Pedorthist. Is that how you pronounce it?
Perfect.
Okay. And welcome aboard, Scott. You can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. And that is Scott. And I assume you were not at your house now. We're at the store.
That's correct. Yeah, I got some shoes right behind me.
Okay, looking good. Scott, what I typically do when I speak to a guest for the first time, I just find out a little bit about them. And I should ask, first of all, as a kid, you grew up where?
I grew up in Richmond, Virginia area.
Okay, as a kid growing up in Richmond, Virginia area, did you always know you wanted to not only own your own store, but be a Pedorthist? Was that your goal as a kid?
No, I actually wanted to be like a scientist or an inventor. That's probably the things when I was like grade school. You might have asked me what I wanted to be. I might have said something like that.
So what got you away from that?
Uh, I actually think that spirit of wanting to like push for facts and be scientific minded has always stayed with me. It's just the way I sort of approach the world. I mean, I feel like the scientific method is like a true way to just, make our way through the world. And then I'm definitely a creative. I like to think outside the box. And we're definitely outside the box with where we've taken this footwear company. So I feel like you'll see that like maybe scientist mind and that creative mind woven into being an entrepreneur. Yeah, I really didn't know I was going to end up here. It's just one turn over one stone, it leads to another thing, and I'm really happy to be where I am, helping people with their mobility.
Now, as a kid, were you a runner?
Yeah, I always ran, played soccer, wrestled, snow skied. Um, Love to do things where, sorry, we're
Yeah,
at
that's
the
okay.
shop, so someone's early birds trying to call us, so we'll have to hear that for a second. But I was always real active, water skied, would do ride on anything, roller skates, roller blades, anything that would move, I'd love to get on. And I love sports and I love moving.
Now,
So
as a
I've always
kid,
been a real fidgety, active mover my whole life.
did you ever have problems with your feet?
I did it when I was a kid. I started in my early adulthood developing some significant problems because of just eventually soccer adds up on a foot in a tight cleat, getting kicked and injured. And, most soccer players that make it into their 30s or 40s or beyond are going to have foot problems.
So when did you decide to put it all together and become a Pedorthist?
The Pedorthist was actually I graduated Evergreen State College with an emphasis in exercise science. Got my personal training license and some coaching license. This is right out of school, and started coaching soccer, coaching clients one on one, and working at a running specialty store. And when I was working at that running specialty store with James DeMarco, he started that company and asked me to come on board and give him a little bit of a hand on the soccer end. But when we were there working with our clients, a lot of them had orthotics from podiatrists. And a lot of these orthotics were very expensive, and a lot of them weren't accomplishing what we wanted them to accomplish. So when I learned that there was a certification that would allow me to work with patient population clients and help them fabricating an orthotic, fitting a shoe, working with their foot ankle ailment, I was very excited to do so. So it was just like I ran into this problem where people needed help and weren't really getting solved. And even back then, I believed so much that your shoe was your first orthotic, the first thing that's going to affect your biomechanics and your foot health. So even if someone were to get this magical perfect orthotic, every shoe you put it in will change the behavior or change that outcome. So shoes are very, very important, and I was really into shoes. So I wanted to marry the the basically run specialty model with all of these different shoes for walking and running, with the clinical practice of being able to fabricate an orthotic. And that's how we got started. So I, with that vision, opened this company in 2007 in Asheville, North Carolina.
And so talk then about the fact that foot health, how important is it to um, what you do in terms of how does it all tie together?
It all ties together because once someone receives a diagnosis for a foot ailment, the rubber has to hit the road in terms of helping them alleviate symptoms and pain that are keeping them from moving, and then giving them a path forward to try to make their foot more functional, to perhaps prevent future problems and make a stronger, balanced foundation under our bodies. And that's what we do, and that's where we feel like it's missing a lot in regular shoe stores, or perhaps it's missing in some clinics. So we just take a very pragmatic approach on how to help you be more comfortable and how to help you move towards having a stronger, healthier foot.
I have to give you a compliment in terms of, I think the first time I saw you is that I didn't realize, and tell me how often this happens, that I was wearing the wrong size shoe. I had, it was okay, but it was the wrong size. Does that happen a lot?
I would love to say it happens very rarely, but that's most of my clients are not only wearing optimal shoes shaped for a human foot, but they're not even wearing the appropriate size. I'd like to give you a reason for that, just to get you off the hook for a common mistake. Is when we graduate high school, and when I graduated high school, I wore a men's 8.5.
Right.
The average rate of arch spreading is a half size a decade. That's the average. So some people can spread faster, some people can spread slower. I am now 53 and I wear between a 10 and 10 and a half. So I am right on with that movement. Well, a lot of people really think that that size is like your waist or some your inseam measurement or something that's going to be fairly static. But this is a measurement that's changing with time. Shoes change with time. So that kind of gets you stuck into thinking you're a size and you just go get your size. The other part that's a kind of a trap is that none of the measuring devices that you see in any shoe stores correlate with the company's shoe sizes. And companies are not on the same page of music. So a Birkenstock type of company, you might wear your measurement, but most shoes you're wearing between a half size and 1.5 size over whatever number you derive from the branding device or a measuring device. So you have to pick a bigger number. And most people go into a self-serve shoe store, they measure their foot, that's a number, they get that number. Why wouldn't they? Why who there's no one saying that there's a difference here and you need to add a size.
Well, I had the same experience, and I couldn't believe it. That I used to have, as a kid, I had size 9.5, and so it was always 9.5. Then it went up to 10, now like 11.5. And so I couldn't believe it, but it made a difference, in terms of foot comfort and whatnot. So talk about, Scott, then how do you find out the right size of a foot? You said the foot measuring devices are one thing. Do they still have those things where you put your foot in and slide? As a kid, we always saw them.
Yep, we have those in the store. We have another one that's like thermal image, so it creates a little heat from your foot. And there are scanners available. We don't have a scanner because currently, I don't have a use for one. That might come in the future. That could be a whole nother podcast. We're going to team up with a company to help scan feet for athletic footwear, so that gets printed off of your foot. That's pretty exciting. That'll be with Prevolve. But I don't want to get sidetracked. I want to stay on this foot health mission. We could have a whole discussion on this 3D scanner athletic footwear revolution.
So what
But
do you
yeah,
do?
so back to measuring. You want to always measure your foot when you're weight bearing on the shoe. And if you're flexible enough, you just want to lean over and see how far forward all your toes are. And you want a little distance past your toe before the end of the shoe. We like to say a thumb width. That's kind of a doesn't work for every foot because a women's 6 is different than a men's 14. But we want a buffer past your toes before the end of a shoe. So if your toes are sitting right up at the end of a shoe, that is too short.
Okay, and where do socks come into play? Because the very first time I saw you, I
Yeah.
was kind of amazed what you do with my socks. I just always
All
put my
right.
socks on.
We'll
Yeah.
talk about socks now. Here we go. Here we go. We'll talk about socks. First thing I want to show the listeners, watchers, is the image that we like to show our clients during an appointment of a foot that would be considered healthy image, and then that foot with the restraints of a sock. So if you put your socks on and your foot turns into a triangle, that sock is too tight and it's taking away your foot function. So one of the best things for toe health is no socks. If you were wearing like a knit shoe or something with the right weather and you didn't feel like putting socks on, I would always say that what we're going for is toe freedom and toe function. The second best thing, if you're gonna wear socks, is to wear toe socks.
I was just going to ask you this. By the
Yep.
way, you have Cynthia doing that. Cynthia, my beautiful bride, now wears toe
Yes.
socks. What does that do?
So what that does allows for individual articulation of the toes, which is really, really important for the function of the foot. I can't stress that enough. So if I told you, Blaine, hey, you're going to either get a choice of A, I'm going to let you wear a glove for the next month, or B, I'm going to make you shove your fingers in a sock for the next month. But you're going to need to brush your teeth. You might need to send an email. You might want to actually use your hands. And if you spend a month in a sock, which is flexible, you'd still be able to move your hand, but you wouldn't be able to articulate and do all the things your hand does. You would start to lose function pretty quickly. So when I bring the hand into our thoughts, our hand is very front and center to our lives, and we actually hide our toes away. But I love to use the hand as a comparison because that is a very sensible thing to say, that you use something or you lose your capability to use it. Move it or use it. Move it or lose it.
So
So the
do you recommend that everybody should wear those socks where we put the toes in different spots?
I recommend everyone that can physically do it to do it. So who can't do it? Maybe you have web space between your toes. Perhaps you've had a hip surgery or lower back surgery and you can't get down to your feet. So there are some instances where it's just going to be so much trouble and struggle for some of my clients. So the third best, which is going to be a tier down in what I would consider function, but is a foot shaped sock. So this sock, this one is by OS First, and they wove it and made it so that it was shaped like a splayed out human foot, which is totally different than most socks. So that's going to be better than most socks, but toe socks or no socks are the best.
And so let me ask you this question, Scott. Uh, how often does this happen that different feet had different size? Is that something that takes place?
Almost everyone's foot is different sizes to the other. Um, Almost everyone has perhaps a slightly larger first MP where your bunion might be on one side than another. One arch might have spread a little bit more than another. Perhaps you have a minor leg length discrepancy, or you've just been off in your hips for a long time and you're 55-45 with your weight. Things like this can affect how your foot splays and how it behaves. And over long periods of time, we take on this sort of shapes. And so it's very rare actually that I see 2 feet that almost look identical.
And one of the things that I think is cool, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you offer the option that people have, I guess, different size feet or radically different size feet. They can get different size shoes from you.
Correct. And we have that from time to time. Generally, my clients will be satisfied if they have a half size discrepancy to fit to the larger foot. But once you start getting to a whole size plus, to have a really good anatomically correct fitting, it's nice to be able to fit with both sizes. And we offer like a half off that second pair just so you can make the fit happen.
Which I thought was pretty cool. And do a lot of people take advantage of that, or some?
We don't have a lot, but the people that need it are very happy. I've got a few older gentlemen that work with me that have polio. There are definitely some reasons why people can have severe discrepancies in their foot length. And then that comes out to be very nice to be able to fit both feet for them.
Where I guess I just have to find somebody who has the same ball size as me and pair up with them.
That's right.
You know, we're laughing. I just digress. Reminds me of my father. Is older. He had an amputation, and he lost. He had one. He only needed one shoe. I was always surprised, Scott. True story. I lost a shoe once, and I put it on top of my car, and I lost it. I was so excited I was going to be able to give it to my dad, and team up with him. But it was the wrong. It was the same foot, that it was the wrong shoe to give him, so he can never use that. But talking about my dad, Scott, let me ask you this: how often are there different? Talk about it in terms of age, where people have different needs, I guess, for running shoes or sneakers. Um, and so runners have, I guess, one need. I guess I'm a walker. What are the differences between ages like that?
A quick, easy difference that is relevant today, because today we have these super thick shoes being put out by the companies. And if you are a healthy, balanced runner, and these feel wonderful to be running on unnatural surfaces like pavement and sidewalks, I think some of these highly cushioned shoes can serve as good tools. But if they get in the hands of like someone that's not quite that scenario, they can prove to be quite unbalancing. So when I'm working with walkers or I'm working with my retirees and older, I do want them to be comfortable. I'm not going to skirt that issue, but we'd like to have you as close to the ground as possible. Every bit we can get you closer to the ground, we know your balance is going to improve. So I think there's quite a big difference for what age group I'm fitting, what activity they're trying to accomplish. Think of shoes like tools, and you want lots of tools in your toolbox to do different things. Your court shoe for pickleball might be different than your shoe for running a marathon, might be different than what I play soccer in, might be different than what you want to just wear all day casually. So, these are all different tools, but typically I like to keep actually all of my clients as close to the ground as we're able to get them and be comfortable.
I have to admit, I was impressed because the first time I saw you, I think you were the first person I ever asked that. What do you want it for? You go into a typical department store, retail store, whatever, and they'll just fit you whatever you ask for. But you were very specific. That was some of the first questions you asked. What are you going to be using it for? And I guess, can people, I guess, have different running shoes with different shoes for different purposes?
Absolutely. A quick run around the neighborhood will be different than a long trail run, would be different than maybe trying to get some workouts done on the track. A treadmill shoe you might feel needs to be different than a shoe you're running around a downtown urban area with. Um, and walkers, some shoes are designed where they, heel strike nicely. And when you walk, you do heel strike for the most part. And runners can run with heel strike, midfoot strike, or forefoot strike. So sometimes the way your foot hits the ground and the terrain you're on, your body weight, are you bow-legged? Are you knock-kneed? Do you need more support? Are you rigid in your biomechanics? There's lots of details that come out in each person that would help us identify which tool is going to help you be most successful or which pair of shoes is going to help you be most successful.
Put you on the spot and not counting the number of shoes you have at the store. How many running shoes do you personally have?
I'm a little bit of a minimalist, and I give shoes away as fast as I can. And I do have a job to do of understanding as many shoes as possible. So it's a bit of a job. It's almost like a restaurant critic that writes, going to restaurants all the time. It's kind of like, I love it. I have passion for it, but it's part of my work. So I try to not have more than I think I have one road shoe right now. I think I have about 5 trail shoes, but I probably indulge a little bit more in the minimal natural shoes because they're beautiful and they last a long time and lots of great colors and styles. I might have 15 or so pairs of shoes that I would consider minimal or natural that I live my life in. Um, yeah, I love those.
Because that's certainly a change in my lifetime and your lifetime as well. That, you used to have black Converse sneakers as a kid. I remember that was the thing to have, one pair of sneakers. And now even looking behind you, that there's certainly a lot more choices. So not only do you, in terms of fit, but in terms of look of it, there are certainly more choices than there used to be.
Yeah, there's a lot of choices. That makes it enjoyable. Spice of life.
Okay. And probably it's annoying to use you get the right shoe, but it's not the right color, or somebody wants a different color. So that's part of the process.
Yeah, yeah.
The in terms you mentioned before, if somebody's getting older, I'm not going to consider myself that way quite yet. But what do you tell folks, as they become older in terms of more importantly, Scott, I guess, tie it into balance. How important are the shoes to their balance?
It's hugely important. I'm going to grab a sample of my
Please.
favorite
Yeah.
shoe to put
Oh,
someone that's a little older in for balance.
right. Great.
Shoes like this is the Limbs Primal, and it doesn't have a cushy midsole,
I see.
this material here. It basically just has an upper sitting on this outsole material, which makes it very flexible. So I could put the shoe in my pocket. But when I squeeze it here with my calipers, this shoe is approximately 13 millimeters or so thick. So if you're walking and you step over like a big piece of gravel, like you're gonna know that gravel is there, but that gravel shouldn't hurt you. Like this is enough rubber that in a way, it's almost like a little massage you get from that gravel. Our feet were designed to feel their way through the world. We have over 200,000 nerve endings on the bottom of our feet that are just hungry for information. And we are definitely victims of a comfort culture. So, one of the things I want my clients to know is we want to challenge the notion of comfort, and we do want you comfortable. But if more comfort from a shoe means more cushion, and more cushion means less balance, I'd rather have you less comfortable and safe in your mobility than to have you more comfortable and a danger to yourself.
And
So I love shoes close to the ground.
is that a factor in terms of working with folks that when they get better fitting or different fitting shoes, they're going to have better balance?
It's 100% everybody I work with is more balanced when they're closer to the ground. So if you have to stand on one leg as long as you can and you're on a big cushy platform, your balance will always be worse than if you're down on the ground with no squishy between you and the ground. It's just a fact of stability.
And it's funny you say that because I guess I would have thought, or other people think as well, that you want it to be as cushy, as comfortable as possible, but that's not necessarily your goal.
Correct. And a note on that, like a thing I think that could illustrate that really well is in our medical culture, we never accept the idea that we would be putting a wrist brace on for eternity or a back brace or
Good
a
point.
knee brace. Like when these things are used in the body, they're used sparingly and they're coming off as soon as possible. But it's okay in our culture for some reason to consider we're going to wear a supportive rigid orthotic and a supportive rigid shoe. We're going to put our feet in there so they don't have to do anything, and we're going to live with our feet that they don't get mobility, they don't get blood flow, they don't get nutrition, they don't get muscle activation, but we're going to just make them as comfortable as possible. And that rigid shoe that you might need for support, that rigid orthotic, all that cushion, that results in more atrophy and less function for your foot. I do think there's a time and a place to protect a foot. We do have plenty of shoes that have cushion for like trail bottom and road bottom and different levels of cushion, different levels of forward tilt. Like I do think there's a time and a place to put on your protective shoe. And then some, like maybe you're gardening and stomping on a shovel or climbing on a ladder or helping a friend move in and out of a moving truck on a ramp. Or maybe you're doing something where your foot isn't functional enough to do it without causing problems or creating an injury. Then I think it is a time to protect. I think the problem is some people just either, maybe only protect or think they can only wear minimal. You actually can wear both in your life.
If I can, I'll give a shout out to kind of a mutual friend of ours, and that's Michelle Coonan. and she actually had me come in to see you because I was wearing a pair of shoes and they were comfortable to me, but she said it was time to replace them. And so I ask you, and she do that. I work with her. She's my trainer. I work with her via video. I don't even go to see her, and she could tell from my looking at me that I needed to see you and get a new pair of shoes. How do you determine when it's time to get a new pair of shoes?
When you start to lose the integrity of the midsole, which is the cushion material, and I'm only talking about cushion shoes right now that
Right.
have a midsole. This is my favorite cushion shoe. It's the Escalante. It's just a simple shoe, close to the ground, very well balanced, very little toe spring, beautiful knit upper from our friends at Ultra. Love this. But back to the question, which is this foam has a shelf life as well as a use life. That's two different things. And let's say you're bow-legged and you put all your weight down the outside of the shoe. And then when you walk, you tilt out a little bit. Well, the more you do that, the more the cushion's going to break down on one edge only. And the shoe's going to start to warp and manipulate. It's going to start to supinate your foot. It's going to change how your knee tracks. It's going to change how your hip feels. It's going to change how your back feels. So when you wear a cushion shoe, there is a lifespan, and the companies like to tell us maybe 3 to 500 miles. The variation is due to your weight, how much you use it, and how balanced your foot is. Think of your wheel on your car. If it's very unbalanced, you're going to chew up a tire pretty quick and need to replace them prematurely. If your wheel is very balanced and you rotate your tires, you're going to get maximum life out of your tires. So that's the same with these pieces of foam. If you wear one foam shoe every day, all day, it's your main shoe, you're going to beat it down very, very quickly. If you're doing that with feet that are pronated or supinated, where you're wearing out one side of the shoe over the other, you're going to wear it out very quickly. So, yeah, there's something to that. And she must have picked up on your gait or how the shoe looked under your foot and was able to observe and see that that shoe wasn't doing you a solid anymore.
And it's cool because, I was comfortable with it and I could have stayed in it indefinitely, but she picked it up. And I guess when I saw you, when you picked it up right away, you could tell. And so ties into maybe one final question I'll ask you, Scott, in terms of who should come in to see a Pedorthist, if you would.
The person that would want to come in to see a pedorthist is going to be serious and committed to wanting to change their lower extremity health and function. So some people may traditionally think they should only come in if their doctor wrote them a prescription for an orthotic. And yes, that is one part of our duties. Like I can help fabricate lots of different styles of customs. We also fit over the counters. But someone could actually come in for preventative care before a problem ever began. Or they could come in to understand what are healthy shoes for their family and their maybe growing children. So we primarily provide two different buckets of care, and one bucket is your gear. So that's your shoes, your socks, maybe some toe spacers if you've already created some deformities, maybe your orthotic if you need that. And when you get all of that straight, that's a big check mark for moving your foot forward. The other bucket of care is your functional care. So that's how to make something more mobile, how to make something stronger, and we curate tools to help you achieve that and give you one-on-one instruction so that you can go home and use these little foot tools to create a stronger, healthier, more mobile foot. And once my clients are accomplished in those two buckets, they are healthy and I don't see them anymore. I might see their spouse or their neighbor or their coworker, but it generally takes, 2 or 3 appointments total for me to get someone on their way towards a healthier foot for life.
And talk about the one other thing you did for me and you do for other people as well. So you sold me the pair of running shoes, a couple of pairs, but then you put in an arch because they come with, I guess, with an arch when you buy them. But then there are other arches you can put in them that do a better job for you.
So again, it's all individual, but when clients are going to be more comfortable with arches or over-the-counter orthotics, as we call them, we have like an array of products. The ones that I like to promote as first sort of option, if possible, are the most flexible ones because we do want to keep some mobility in your foot. So I try to stay away from devices and footwear that would eliminate mobility in the foot. Sometimes they're needed for certain injuries, but as much as possible, we try to keep the foot to be able to be free and be a foot.
And Scott, if anybody wants to come in to see the store, and I think they'll be impressed with it, you're located where?
We're located at 1979 Hendersonville Road in Asheville, North Carolina. And we're just a couple doors from Dunkin' Donuts. We're very near Long Shoals Road, almost in Arden, South Asheville. And we have a store in Pisgah Forest, North Carolina, just outside of the gateway to the forest there. So come see us and we'll help you with your feet and your movement.
And you also have a very informative website, and that is what?
That is footrx.com. And we have an e-commerce that we launched after Helene. We had a lot of clients that were not from our region that poured out with some love and helped us on our road to recovery. And we answered them by launching an e-commerce website. So on there, you can get your toe socks, you can get your spacers, you can get your foot-shaped shoes. You also can see how to contact me if you have questions or make an appointment if someone needs that one-on-one care.
Anyway, Scott, I'd like to thank you for being my guest in this edition of the Blaine's World podcast. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And I'd say I'll see you sometime in the near future, but I'm sure that will be the case. Thanks, man. That was great.
Thank you. Until then, I hope your feet feel great.
They do. Thanks to you. Appreciate it.